Welcome to this impromptu midway point for the Review of Death podcast, because some big news dropped on Friday afternoon, the 24th of September, at around 3:15 in the afternoon, which I wasn't alerted to because I was in the middle of a meeting, and Matt had to send me a message on Facebook with lots of expletives and lots of full stops, lots of exclamation marks, saying, have you seen the news? And I don't know, I assumed it was a Doctor related thing. I thought we'd hear something about the Doctor maybe before we heard about the showrunner.
Yeah? Oh, okay. I can't remember how it happened last time. Did we know about Chibnall? Yeah, we must have heard about Chibnall before.
Oh yeah, we would have known about Chibnall before Jodie, but I just thought the amount of stuff that had snuck out from the recording of Series 13 in the last week or so, I thought maybe something has been leaked or they need to get ahead of it or whatever.
So for those of you listening, I'm sure everybody listening knows what this news is. First of all, must say, if you're listening to the podcast and you think, oh my God, what's happened to the sound? It's because we're recording this over Zoom. We can't go into the studio to record this little snippet. So for this little segment, we'll just be slightly more muffled. But yes, Russell T Davies has been announced as the new showrunner for Doctor Who for the 60th anniversary and 2024. Did you say what was the wording?
I think it's the 60th anniversary in 2023, and then later series.
Which has led to some discrepancy about what does this actually mean? Is this just a 60th anniversary special? Is it going to be a series? Is it going to be a mini series? I guess that's where the speculation begins, really. I mean, I'd be happy with a series. Obviously, I think we'd all like a series rather than just one special.
I assumed, to be honest, that the news, if they wanted to clarify that it would be like a limited event series, I guess like they did when they did the Chibnall and Jodie leaving announcement.
Yeah.
They would have said it. So I think they would have been very careful with their wording not to get people's hopes up, possibly, if it was just that Russell was doing something less significant than running the show for an indefinite number of years.
Yeah.
But I generally took it to mean this is it, like 60th anniversary special is when Russell joins.
Comes along, yeah.
And then we'll have seasons of Doctor Who to follow afterwards that he's in charge of. That's kind of what I
That's how you read it, yeah.
That might not be the case, obviously. But it will be very, very interesting to see the development of this publicly from that initial press statement, because everybody's going to want to know more.
Oh yeah,
And let's just say it again. Russell T Davies is coming back to be the showrunner of Doctor Who. It's absolutely nuts.
I was sat at my desk. I was in the office when the news broke, and I had to contain myself because I thought, my God, people are going to wonder what the hell's going on if I yelp, because I honestly was just about to burst. I couldn't believe it. It was just incredible. It's never happened. Well, other than Barry Letts coming back to do, chaperone John Nathan Turner in season 18. This has never happened before. This is totally unprecedented. And this is coming from someone who documented it incredibly well, the whole process of what it was like to be the showrunner and how much of a toll it took on him. He always says about how stressed he was, the amount of cigarettes and booze that he went through, just trying to cope with this mammoth task of not only running Doctor Who, but Sarah Jane Adventures, Torchwood, and all the peripheral stuff that comes with being the showrunner of Doctor Who. And it seemed very clear that he was like, no, I'll never go back to Doctor Who. I did it for 5 years. It was my baby, but I sent it off did what I wanted to do with it. And, that was that. So for him to now turn around and be like, okay, back again, let's go. It's just absolutely bonkers. Crazy. It just doesn't seem real. I keep seeing the picture of the press release and thinking, I can't believe it. This is a wind up, surely.
It's absolutely sensational. And I think, it opens up a huge amount of possibilities for what could come.
Yeah.
I think that everybody feels like a certain sense of reassurance with Russell's name being attached to the project.
Yes.
I think that it's obviously bringing it a lot of kudos as well, that Russell, who, made his name in the mainstream for being the showrunner of Doctor Who from 2005 onwards till 2009, 2010. And then the show got passed over to the next successor that kind of made sense.
Yeah.
And I mean, it might just be the fact that it was the first time it happened in this generation. But I think that most people consider everything kind of after Russell to have not quite matched up to the standards of show running that he may have set.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we don't really know how many decisions are made by how many individuals on the production, but
No.
you know, you just got the impression that that was a very sturdy ship.
Yeah.
And that things were thought about and were taken into consideration and were integral to the kind of makeup of the show that maybe have fallen by the wayside recently, like the marketing and promotion, you know, hasn't been as widespread or in the public consciousness or the show hasn't been in the public consciousness as much since David Tennant regenerated, you know, let's be honest.
Yeah.
And the idea that that could happen again and that Doctor Who could get a third wind, you know, the second in the 21st century is just utterly phenomenal and really exciting.
I think just seeing the Twitter reaction speaks volumes, and the press reaction, because suddenly people who don't watch Doctor Who anymore are suddenly talking about Doctor Who in a way that they necessarily haven't been for many, many years, which is incredible. And it's all down to one bloke coming back, you know. And someone posted on Twitter, I'm not sure who it was, and they said, you know, how many series out there do the public know the name of the head writer, are so familiar with the name of the head writer? You know, and obviously Russell has done some incredible things since leaving Doctor Who. You know, he just had It's a Sin, and Years was superb. And it was actually Phoenix Smith posted this on Twitter, and I thought this is a very good point. He said, anyone who is expecting Russell's Doctor Who to be the same as the Doctor Who that he did, you know, however many years ago, 10 years ago, whatever, you're going to be in for a shock, because his writing and his style evolves, and, you know, he's done all this stuff in between. It's going to be fascinating to see what it's like for a second round. And I know some people have been saying, oh, you know, all the NMDs have been saying, oh, Doctor Who won't be woke anymore. But, you know, this was a man who put everything at the forefront of Doctor Who, of a much wider multi-ethnic cast, LGBT cast. So, you know, that is obviously going to be at the forefront of his new series.
I was going to say, one of the things I wanted to kind of flag is that aspect of growth and development in his writing, and that as much as I've just said, it's going to be nice to see things maybe be given more of a focus or more attention because certain people are maybe behind it, like the promotion and whatnot. But beyond that, I don't think we're going to, as you said, see the same show that we saw in 2005, 2006, 2007. No. It's going to be very different for all of the right reasons. And we're going to see a Doctor Who for the 2020s. You know, we're not going to see a Doctor Who for the mid-noughties. But again, you're right. It's a moment of shifting in the show, but those things that certain people get angry about are not going to change anytime soon.
No, of course not. Of course not.
So maybe this will be the moment where they realise the show really isn't for them. Who knows?
Yeah.
There is so much more we could talk about, but I think it's best that we leave it here. Yeah. And you can enjoy your regularly scheduled program, and we will.
The Space Pirates.
Enjoy the Space Pirates, everybody. But yeah, we'll come back and we'll talk about this in the first half. We'll take up the entire first half of the next episode, and we'll dig a bit deeper into that press statement. Yeah. Maybe some more stuff would have been revealed to us by the time we come around to recording episode 5. So yeah, keep your eyes and your ears peeled for more news, and we'll react to it as and when it comes through.
Well, back to the regularly scheduled programme. Hello and welcome back to the Review of Death podcast, your fortnightly Doctor Who podcast where we discuss all of the latest Doctor Who news and stuff that happens in the world of Doctor Who, and we then review an episode of your choosing. And this week, Billy, what are we reviewing?
This week we're reviewing The Space Pirates, the penultimate Second Doctor story, and I mean, its reputation precedes it.
It certainly does. It is an often derided story.
And I think it's going to be interesting doing it, considering so little of it actually survives.
Yes.
So we'll get into that, I guess, and give a bit more context and all that sort of stuff. But first of all, we'd like to say thank you very, very much to everybody who has supported the Patreon, which launched last Monday, or 2 Mondays ago from when you're watching this. It was crazy.
It was really
the
good,
response was absolutely insane. So please head over to the Patreon if you want to support what we're doing with the review of Death. I think we've got 4 more to go as of today. And then we review Class.
Yes, Class being the spin-off from, well, what year was that? About 2016,
Was
maybe?
it 2016?
Or something like that, 15?
Yeah.
Something around the Peter Capaldi era of the series.
Yeah.
And written by Patrick Ness. Another series where its reputation precedes it.
Rather so, yes. So, I mean, look, we'll figure out a way to review it so that we both preserve some semblance of sanity through it. But, we have had a couple of conversations about what we've...
How can we do this?
How can we do this?
Without wanting to shoot ourselves.
Exactly. And also reviewing stuff going forward as well,
yes.
And other stories. So I think we found a nice middle ground, but I think the 11th Doctor one, which we did the poll for on Twitter, is going to be really interesting.
That's going to be good.
You guys all voted for Vincent and the Doctor. What you didn't know is that's actually the good counterpoint to the story that we're reviewing, which is the lowest ranked 11th Doctor story, and that is, of course, The Rings of Akaten.
Yes.
So, or Akaten, or however you, I don't know, I haven't seen it for such a long
Akaten?
time.
I think it's Akaten, yeah.
So that's going to be really interesting.
I'm looking forward to that one.
Absolutely. And of course, we've got Series 13 coming up.
Yeah.
So whenever the trailer for that drops, it's like Schrodinger's cat. Like, it's both imminent and also not coming out.
Yeah.
So we'll wait to see how that develops, but that might throw the schedule out of whack a little bit.
Nothing is really set in stone at the moment. We're in a sort of state of flux until Series 13 happens. Of course, we also have Evil of the Daleks coming out today. So if you're listening to this on Monday, the 27th of September, then Evil of the Daleks has just come out. So we will be reviewing that as well.
Yes.
Billy, you actually went to see it.
I saw it at the BFI, and it was magnificent. So
I've not seen it.
Matt's still yet to see it.
When the DVD arrives through the door on today, I'll be watching it, and we'll do a review of that as well.
Excellent.
So I guess maybe that'll be the next one. Maybe we'll do.
Well, it's either going to be that or Zygons.
That was Zygons. Maybe we do Evil first because it's in the.
I feel like we have to do Zygon because the Patreon.
Oh, that's okay. They can.
Okay.
They can wait. I'm sure.
Well, that will likely be a reaction video as well.
Yes.
A watch along sort of thing. So how that works in the context of the podcast, I guess we put it out as a normal episode, and people can
we can because we never really showed any footage.
No.
It's just us going.
Yeah.
Oh my God. That's that.
Yeah, exactly.
So I guess we can still do that. Maybe we can put it on the laptop here. We could just watch it and
through.
just
Sounds good. So we'll be doing that at some point. So bear with us as the schedule sort of is in flux. It's malleable.
There's good things to come.
Yeah, absolutely.
Unfortunately, you've got the Space Pirates today.
We've got the Space Pirates to go through, but if we all just lie back and think of England, it will be fine. Yeah. Now it's time for the news, and there's been a few bits of news.
There hasn't there?
I mean, in the last couple of days, the big one is that Series 13 has sprung a leak, and we now know that.
Should we be saying this? Are we going to have someone saying, I've avoided all spoilers?
Maybe not. I'll
bleep you out, and then we'll just keep this in.
So, what do we think of?
Cool. I'm happy, really. No sign of... Isn't he?
Yeah, that whole bit has also been bleeped because that also massively gives away. So it's just like that old redacted video we did where we bleeped everything. It's up
to you to guess what we're talking about.
Yeah, I think somebody, if you've gone into the comments, it's been spoiled for you. So, that wasn't on us.
Yeah.
Galaxy 4.
Yeah.
That is coming out. That's out on the 15th of November.
Very soon.
Yeah.
Insanely soon.
Bubbling away in the background, obviously.
Yeah.
Same team that did
Fury from the Deep. So Gary Russell and
Big Finish Creative.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. I love that specially made trailer. I thought that was really nice. I would like to have obviously seen a bit of animation because
they seem to do this quite a bit, don't they, with the publicity for these releases, or at least for the last couple.
Well, I mean, Web was a bespoke trailer, wasn't it? Rather than having anything showing clips. The initial one was
wasn't
Pat
it?
voiceover.
Yeah, that was cool.
But I guess it's different with this one because that isn't sort of unveiling the new animation style, whereas we know what we're going to get. With, I still haven't seen Web of Fear.
No.
Maybe that'll be a running gag.
We'll never
watched it.
Not until we have to.
Christopher Eccleston's back again. We've got another series
he's coming back.
of Ninth Doctor adventures to be released throughout 2022 and into 2023. And the last bit of news, I suppose, really is Find the Doctor. That's the only other thing that's kind of cropped up.
So that all came to a head, didn't it? So that's it. Is that it? Is that the end of it? Was that?
Yeah, and we're not bleeping this bit because I think from what I gathered, that is it.
Right. So yeah, if you haven't been following it, basically there have been little clues and all sorts of multimedia across, Doctor Who magazine, BBC newsletters, and it all culminated in a voice clip of the Doctor talking to Yaz.
And then there was the flash of the monster.
And then we got a flash of a monster.
Was there not also one that you had to play it backwards?
That was
to hear the message, or was that a different?
Yeah, that was that one.
That was that one.
I think so.
Okay. And then the other thing was the promo picture of Jodie. I think somebody found that
just
through.
Her in.
Yeah,
it was just her, wasn't it, in red and blue?
What do you make of those photo shoots? Because I think that Jodie's had some of the best Doctor.
Hers have been really lovely. Oh yeah.
Out of anyone, I can only really think the Capaldi ones when he had like an art director in, like the ones he'd do for the Radio Times or whatever.
Ones were always
those
nice.
were always great.
I think that was Stuart Manning that did those.
Yes, that's right. Yes, I was trying to remember his name. Thank you. And then, I mean, that's it really in terms of bespoke, stylized photography of the Doctor. Yeah. The only other one that comes to mind is the one of Tom on that little stage with the curtain behind him with the kind of diffracted lights, the refractions around him.
Oh, I can't remember.
His season 12 outfit.
That was another. That was meant to be Radio Times as well, wasn't it? But that got.
Oh, was that supposed to be?
I think it was meant to be a Radio Times cover for Genesis.
Interesting.
Do you know Tom Baker didn't get a Radio Times cover?
That is mad, isn't it?
Isn't that insane?
Have you gathered that from Clay's?
I have gathered that from Clay's.
Clayton Hickman has been recreating all the original Radio Times covers for Doctor Who, and they are lovely.
Stunning.
So nice.
I really want to get the Tomb of the Cybermen one.
That would be cool.
As a print and like frame it. It would look so good.
I think I'd have either how mundane and boring the John Pertwee one is with Parky and the little kids. I like that one. And then the Dalek Invasion of Earth one.
The Dalek Invasion of Earth one is
very
really nice.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a toss-up between those two for me, I think.
It looks like the same design. It's the same sort
of... It's the same sort of style, isn't it? That lovely sort of 60s poppy sort of thing. It's
and
great.
That's kind of it. I mean...
Well, no, we have had a death, haven't we?
Oh, yes, of course.
We did lose John Challis
a
couple of days ago, which was very sad.
Yes.
Not only for Doctor Who fans, but of course for British comedy and television in general, because he was just so superb as Boycie. He was an icon,
legend.
And
it's weird when you get like a side character from a comedy show dying.
Yeah,
because often they kind of provide some of the biggest laughs.
Yeah,
it's just like your job is to come in, do a joke, and then leave again. It's like. I mean, the cat is obviously a very different role in Red Dwarf, but it is that sort of swing in, steal the scene,
and then,
Lord Flashheart style, and then disappear.
Yeah.
And he did that. And, he's great in Seeds of Doom.
Excellent.
Scorby's a great character.
So good.
Is Scorby thrown into the mulcher as well?
No, he gets eaten by in the pond. He's like walking through the pond and it
Harrison
rears
Chase.
up.
Yeah.
Gets him.
Harrison gets eaten by
the mulching machine. Yeah.
And he always was a great advocate for the show. I mean, the same thing we said about Tony Selby, really. I mean, seems like a salt of the earth kind of dude.
Yeah.
And, very sad to see him go.
Yeah, he was always doing conventions and stuff. And he did Big Finish, I think, fairly recently with Tom again. So, yeah, very sad.
There we go. So rest in peace, John Challis. And this might also spell our end as well, because now we've got to review the Space Pirates. So,
yay!
Yeah. Now, obviously, this is a story that, we were approaching it with some degree of kind of wariness because it's the Space Pirates, but also because it doesn't really exist to the same degree that a lot of other missing stories do from that era. I'm sure everybody's watching this knows.
I'm sure,
about
if you were listening to this
and all that kind of stuff.
It's a missing episode. Do you know? I think it was Matthew Purchase on Twitter posted that 40% of the missing episodes have now been animated.
Wow.
And that if we follow the same release schedule next year, 50% or over 50% will be animated. That is crazy.
It's insane.
As a kid, thinking we'll never see this stuff, and now we get to see sort of approximations of it.
Maybe
Incredible.
it should always stay at sort of like 97% animated and just leave this one out. But I'm joking.
Never do the space pirates.
I'm joking.
I wouldn't blame them. Put the money towards something good, like Dalek Master Plan. Go on.
But the weird thing is that it doesn't even have any telesnaps.
No.
You know, like there's episode 2 survives in the archives.
Yeah.
It's the only one
Yeah.
out of all 6 episodes.
Do you know, I said to Jonathan, I was like, he said, what's this story like? And I said, well, you know episode 2? No. It's like, well, you've seen episode 2. No, I've never seen it. It's like, of course you have. It's on the DVD. Have I seen it? I said, well, I mean, the fact that you can't remember what it was like.
Sure.
That just spells the whole thing.
It's not a great indicator,
It's
is
not
it?
very good, is it? No.
Shall we I'll do the cheap pop culture rewind really quickly. So UK number 1, Marvin Gaye. I heard it through the grapevine.
Oh, nice. Okay.
I always love knowing what song people might have been listening to
on the
going
way into
in.
work.
Yeah, and it's like, what did Pat think of that? Did he like that song, or is it, it's all a bit too new for me and all that kind of stuff? Or...
Bizarrely, we should have mentioned that today, the day of recording this, is Fraser Hines' birthday.
There we go.
So,
Happy birthday, Fraser Hines.
This one's for you.
Your dad.
Yeah, my dad.
Highest grossing film.
A joke
from yesteryear. Highest grossing film in the UK in 69.
A Bond.
Mm-hmm. Which Bond?
Oh, crikey.
69.
You Only Live Twice?
On Her Majesty's Secret Service.
Oh, bugger.
There we go. And notable events. I thought the first 2 would be really interesting to kind of discuss at the start, because I love the space race era of Patrick Troughton stories.
Yeah.
Seeds of Death.
Yep.
This even.
Yeah.
I think encapsulates that kind of like, we're going to go into
Yeah.
space and we're going to have a jolly good time and all that kind of stuff.
And it's sort of almost like, it's quite comic booky 50s B-movie
Very.
sort of way of doing it. And that sums up, because everyone always sort of says about the Troughton era is that boys' own adventure type thing.
Yeah.
And it does have that kind of feel to it. It does feel like slightly larger than life, like this could be a comic book from like the Eagle or
exactly.
Dan Dare.
Even the way that they like, okay, we're going to name these ships.
Yeah.
Or like T-Mat. Like, you know, it's a device in the story.
Yeah.
But you kind of feel like, I kind of get T-Mat.
Yeah.
Like, you know, the worlds actually feel kind of textured and real and all that kind of stuff. But 2 notable events around that time. So started broadcasting the 8th of March. 2nd of March, Concorde had its first test flight in France.
Oh my god, a connection to 2 shitty Doctor Who stories.
Oh no, I didn't even. Oh no,
the Time Flight.
Oh, Time Flight's next. Isn't
Oh my
it?
god.
Maybe we'll do Time Flight next.
Oh no.
And then
I can't cope with it.
3rd of March, NASA launches the Apollo 9 to test the lunar module that later in the year gets used for the moon landing.
Okay.
For Apollo 11. And also, I snuck in for myself, 12th of March, Paul McCartney marries Linda Eastman, and 25th of March, John Lennon marries Yoko Ono.
Yeah.
So, how do we want to approach this, considering so little of it? Actually, I should say this first. How did you find watching the Loose Cannon reconstruction?
I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of the reconstructions anyhow.
Loose Cannon specifically, or telesnap?
Just telesnap reconstructions generally.
Yeah.
You know, I did it once and I watched through all of it, and that was fine. But it wouldn't be something that I would necessarily, you know, when it comes to the DVDs, for instance. Do you watch the animated version, or do you watch the telesnap version?
I feel like I'd be more inclined these days to give the telesnaps a go.
Right, okay.
But I mean, I'm buying the DVD
for the animated version. Yeah, so I mean, I would tend to watch the animation.
Yeah.
Occasionally, I will dip in and just have a look at what the recons are doing. Obviously, with a story like this, like you said earlier on, there are no telesnaps. There's no real indication of what the story looks like beyond a few publicity images and episode 2.
Yeah.
And the surviving model footage of the spaceships, which is incredible. That is the highlight, I think, for this story.
Model work.
The model work is fantastic. And it's a shame we can't see more of it later on.
I do have a bugbear with the model work.
Okay.
Which is that they've decided to shoot everything against black.
With a black ship.
Well, there's that. But there's no stars on the backdrop, and I just feel like, because it's all like fixed camera positions as well, it does feel like, I'm looking at like a black drape with stuff positioned and a static camera on a tripod doing, which I mean, I know a lot of model effects were in their infancy at this point, but I mean, you know, there's still a lot of tricks of the trade which are being employed in like the Bond movies for models and miniatures, and I some of the shots, I mean, obviously in episode 2, you know, we can see what that looks like, and with the surviving model shot footage, we can see what the rest of it looks like. But I wasn't that kind of bowled over by it personally.
Oh, really?
No.
Obviously, I thought the model work was quite good. I mean, I hadn't really thought about the stars thing, but I thought like the models themselves, I thought were really well made. I thought like the ships looked really good. You know, they looked space age and futuristic. They had that sort of 60s. This is what the future looks like vibe, which I thought was really lovely. And I like the fact that Milo Clancy's spaceship is a crappy old rocket called Liz. Yeah. You know, and it feels like this whole episode, this whole story has this real sort of, it's like a Western in space, and, you know, Liz is like an old bloody tractor that's on its last legs, or an old mule that needs to be shot, but, you know, she comes in and saves the day. I mean,
I understand that Bob Holmes basically wanted to write a sci-fi western.
Yeah,
because he's got, you know, he's the what do you call them? The pioneer. You know, he's the gold digging. Yeah,
the prospector.
That's it. Yeah, prospector.
Yeah. And he even comes in, doesn't he, with his gun like slung over his shoulder, almost like his pickaxe.
But his outfit is just like he's literally walked off of another program.
Yeah.
Like there's no attempt to kind of sci-fi him up apart from giving him a laser gun.
Yeah.
You know? It's at this point that I have to make an admission of guilt to you, Matt.
Right.
Which is that I didn't actually watch The Space Pirates.
You didn't watch the episode? I sat through 6 episodes.
I listened to the audiobook.
Oh.
With Fraser Hines' linking narration.
So so not the Target novel, you listened to the proper...
I listened to the proper BBC soundtrack.
Okay.
But with Fraser linking it. And
that's
that was
probably better.
Right. So I knew I wouldn't have time with the week. I've started a new job. I know I wouldn't have had time to cram everything into the evenings.
Yeah.
So
bloody excuse that is.
I know, wait.
You worked that out.
I got it off of Audible. And I listened to it walking back and forth from work.
Yeah.
And maybe that's why I actually quite enjoyed it.
Did you
and
really?
I think it's probably so far the best thing that we've actually reviewed.
Oh my God. I said
not for the whole of the review of Death, but for this current setup.
He said, Jonathan said to me before I left, he said, what do you think Billy's going to make of this story? So I got a funny feeling he's going to say he liked it. Oh my God.
There we go.
Wow. I guess that's it, isn't it?
I haven't not got red notes on my notes, I should say. I have problems with this story, but
you actually did enjoy it.
Actually, I didn't really enjoy it.
Yeah.
But I had fun while I was listening to it and taking it all in and stuff.
Yeah. I think, you know, I get that. I can understand that feeling of, depending on how you experience these missing episodes, depends on how you enjoy the story. So, for instance, the Massacre of St. Bartholomew's Eve, I listened to the audio tape version first. Couldn't understand a frigging clue what was going on because they've all got different French names and there's a lot of characters in it, and some are Huguenots, some are Catholics, and the whole thing just gets completely muddled. And I was just like, I haven't got a clue who's who. As soon as I watched the Telesnap Recon, or the Recon, I loved it.
Yeah.
And I read the Target book and I loved that as well.
Yeah, okay.
So perhaps maybe if I'd have read the Target novel, I think I've got the Target novel.
I think the Target novel is actually quite liked. I get the impression.
Yeah.
I mean, it's Terrence Dicks as well doing it, so that's always good.
So you zhuzh it up a bit.
But
I mean, the thing is Robert Holmes wrote this story, and Robert Holmes is the godfather of Doctor Who.
Quite funny because I did find a quote from Terrence Dicks saying he called the Space Pirates one of Bob's rare failures, and attributed this to the fact that Bob Holmes was working on the story with Derek Sherwin as script editor rather than Terrence, which I love. But this is Derek Sherwin coming in as script editor for this story.
This is his first one
before he takes over as producer, I believe.
Crike.
I'm not sure about that. If it's definitely the first one.
Yeah.
But he's script editor on this episode.
He's script editor. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Before Terrence does it for the next for the War Games, I think.
Yeah. I think we should mention the War Games because in
who wrote the War Games?
Malcolm Hulke, wasn't it, and Terrence Dicks together, didn't they? They did that one.
Yeah.
So obviously this story, it's 6 episodes. The Doctor and friends aren't in it very much.
No.
And that is because I guess they were thinking, crikey, they've got a 10-part extravaganza coming up.
Well,
we need to give them a bit of a break.
In my research, it's only episode 6 that's actually affected.
Oh, really?
By the filming for the War Games.
Okay.
And I think...
And they're in that more than any of the other bits.
Yeah, but it's pre-recorded and played into the studio.
Right.
I don't know if it's all on film, but it's definitely being played into the studio.
Right, okay.
For episode 6, because they were off on location filming for the War Games.
A much better story.
For a much better story than this. But yeah, I mean, what do you think of the story as a whole? Like, you know, in terms of the plot and the Doctor and co.'s actual movements within it, because that was my biggest bugbear with it.
This is my issue with it as well, is that it feels like another program that Doctor Who just happens to appear in.
Really?
That is how I feel about it.
Okay.
It's like, you know, this episode 1, they basically turn up for like the last 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And
I was looking at my phone going like 15 minutes in and they haven't
turned up yet.
Yeah.
And I don't really give a shit about bloody this guy or this bloke or anything else, to be honest.
No.
Not at this point.
Nothing interesting is happening in that first 15 minutes of part 1.
No.
This would be a great 4-parter, I think.
This is what I said to Johnny as well. I said it could be 4 parts easily. And even then it would just be all right.
Yeah.
But yeah, it did not need to be 6 episodes. So
No.
it's overlong unnecessarily. The main characters aren't really in it that much, and they almost feel a bit like a Deus Ex Machina, don't they? They just sort of they're there at the end and they're like, oh, we'll just solve all these little issues.
The thing that I found about it was you're watching them bounce from locked cell to locked cell, and it's like you're watching, and especially when you're just listening to it, you're listening to somebody doing an escape room.
Yes.
And it just, each one is slightly trickier.
Yeah.
But they usually get out. I mean, the Doctor's ingenuity does come into it now and again.
Oh, yeah.
But usually somebody else lets them out, or it's an accident.
Yeah.
Like Jamie does something and is, oh, you silly fool. Oh, Jamie, it works. You know, when he throws the tuning fork down.
Yeah.
And it makes the audio lock open.
Yeah.
And, or Milo runs in and goes, come on, we got to get out of here. And then they run off. Whatever his accent is. I was trying to follow it as closely as possible and make notes on my phone, but I have to say, from episode 4 especially, is just, the audio quality is really not great. Yeah. So I was trying to follow as closely as possible.
When I got to episode 6, my brain had completely switched off, and I was just like, oh, is it the end? Good.
Okay. Well, let's talk about the plot, because I couldn't find one. Pretty much. It's pretty rudderless.
Yeah, it's corporate espionage, but not really. I mean, that's putting a very broad stroke upon it.
Yeah,
really.
It's like, what's her name from Revelation of the Daleks? Carla.
Yes, yeah, Cara.
Cara. It's like her, but Madeline in this story.
Yeah.
So she's kind of like the ruthless businesswoman.
Yeah.
Who eventually is revealed to be in leagues with the space pirates, the titular space pirates.
Cavan,
Cavan and I forget the name of the other one. Is it Dervish?
Dervish, that's right. Yeah.
Or is he one of the? I can't remember.
No, he's the engineer guy, isn't he? That works for them. Yeah, there's a lot there that I've got notes on as well.
Okay, so I mean, it's difficult to know how to approach this story because I did enjoy it. But it's not. I can imagine myself enjoying it less sitting in front of a screen and watching it.
Yes.
So I feel like I've kind of biased myself in my experience of listening to it. But I'm glad I did it that way. Yeah. Because it was new, firstly. So I know that I can actually consume Doctor Who like that and enjoy it. Yeah. But you do paint a picture in your head of what's going on. I was realistic with it. I'm like, okay, it's not going to be a massive blooming, CGI spaceship or whatever. Yeah. But I think I kept it relatively realistic. I did, obviously watch episode 2. Yeah. But I actually just quite enjoyed it. For all the mud we'll probably sling at it here and there, I actually kind of enjoyed my time with it.
Did you find when you went from episode 1 and then to actually watching episode 2, did you sort of feel like there was a dip in your enjoyment or the quality of what you were watching compared
I suppose
to your pictures?
By the time episode 2 starts and you kind of like, okay, I know what I'm in for with this. I know what it's going to be. It's going to be hop from thing to thing, get locked there, get out, go here, get locked in, go out. It's going to be that. And I know that's what it's going to be. What I didn't expect, actually, was to like Milo Clancy as much as I did.
Milo Clancy is really good.
He's probably the best thing in it, I think.
Well, I think him and the main baddie, Cavan, I think he is really good. I actually think the actors in this are very good and
they are
underrated.
All quite strong.
Yeah. It's got a really good cast and a mediocre...
Jack May as General Hemmick.
He's really good.
He was quite good.
He was really good. He's got a great voice.
Fantastic voice.
Yeah.
You knew it immediately... which was very useful, especially when everybody talks in basically the same accent.
Yeah.
It was very useful to have him there talking, all that kind of stuff. My only other issue with the voices is the Space Pirates only sound slightly less posh than the Intergalactic Space Force or whatever. Because they're all like prim and proper British officers sort of thing.
Why does the guy from Monster of Peladon do an American accent?
I don't know.
I mean, he's fine. And he's good.
Yeah.
It's a shame, actually, because he just ends up spending, like, the last few episodes stuck in a spaceship, completely apart from everybody else.
Exactly. That, I think, was also an issue I had with it, is that because so much of it is set in space, it's literally not grounded. So the plot kind of feels like, well, if we're constantly moving and heading from this space station to this space station or this satellite or beacon to there, then... you don't really get an opportunity to kind of like, right, okay, so what's actually like happening here? Because you're only hearing the plot from, members of the Space Corps or whatever they're called, talking about these space pirates. So Argonite is both used for everything and is also the most priceless mineral ore in the... There's a supply and demand issue there. There's something not quite working out there, which was my first thing. I was like, okay, I'm Argonite. I can't really get behind that as like a concept, considering you build your space stations out of it. And so then Milo Clancy is a prospector and he mines for Argonite and sells Argonite and stuff. And he's like, oh, so these space pirates are taking all my Argonite. And it's like, well, where are you mining it? We see none of that, really.
So his planet was Lobos.
His planet's Lobos, and then there's Tar, which is the one where the pirates are on.
Yeah, where all the action takes place.
Yeah. And it's
like
you
never go to Lobos.
Never go to Lobos. You hear about it. It's like, don't you remember when we used to pick up girls around Lobos and take them for a drive? It was all that kind of... That stuff was quite nice. And Milo Clancy is a splash of colour.
Yes.
In a story that is obviously very grey.
Yeah.
But also everybody speaking in the same tone of voice. As good as Pat and Fraser and, Wendy kind of are in their roles, they're not doing anything.
No, that's
they're really not doing anything at all in the story. And even when like Zoe interjects and says, well, actually, I don't think that's quite how it works, or blah, blah, blah. And the doctor's just like, don't be a pessimist, Zoe. It's like, that's quite out of character for the second doctor to say that to her. And then, Jamie's just walking into things. Yeah,
Jamie really has nothing to do. At least Zoe has that moment in episode 3, I think it is, when she's like, when the doctor's trying to solve the issue. And she comes up with, or she solves it, doesn't she? She solves the whole problem.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh yeah. He's like, oh well done, Zoe. He's like, I could have, I could have worked it out myself, of course, but
But he always has to do that.
But he always has to do that, and that's nice. I like the characterization there is really good. But yeah, Jamie, bless him, has got nothing to do. I mean, he gets a bit of shooting in, doesn't he, later on?
But it's because,
punches some bloke.
It's because, obviously being out of time and being, a Highlander, he has to have everything explained to him, which is great for the audience.
Yeah.
But then when he becomes that Scooby-Doo character, where, the doctor says, oh, it's a thing.
Yeah.
It's a thing. What kind of thing, Doctor? What is a thing? I get that he has to do it, but it just gets a little bit like you're just here to say, "Oh, look at that! What's that?" That's all you're there for.
I do like though. I do like how they reverse that slightly with the candles with Zoe, and Zoe's like, "What's a candle?" And she's like, "Is this it? How does it work?"
That's more interesting.
That was more interesting. I thought that. I was like, "Oh, how nice."
Because it's like, I'm not having to. I mean, I know that it's a children's program, and obviously they need stuff explaining to them more than some people do. Not all the time, but most of the time. So to have something repeated at you, and I'm like, I know what this thing is. It sometimes can be infuriating.
And it's fun for Jamie to then be able to say, "Oh, you don't know what a candle is."
Yeah, exactly. At the end of the day, he's like, shove this in your face. You think you know everything, Missy, but you don't know what a candle is. That is nice. They've got such a lovely relationship. Yeah. Do you prefer Jamie with Victoria or Jamie with Zoe?
Oh, I knew you were going to ask this. I kind of want to say Zoe, because I think Zoe has, obviously Victoria's lovely, but I think Zoe has slightly more agency than Victoria. Victoria is just...
Even if she is told by Milo to go and make herself busy and go make a pot of tea.
Yeah, which is ridiculous. She has more agency than Victoria. Victoria is just very much the screaming damsel, which is fine, and it works well for that era. You don't really you don't bat an eyelid for that period of Doctor Who. So I think Zoe just about gets through there because she's got a bit more character to her, and the relationship with Jamie works very well. I'm the pretty little sister, but I'm much smarter than you. Yeah, and I'm even smarter than the Doctor. Yeah, and that works really nicely.
I think I prefer, like, chemistry wise. Yeah. Jamie and Victoria. Right. Because I do get the impression. I mean, there's that whole thing in Fury from the Deep that they have like one night left together, and it's like it's not like made very clear what happens. But I think most people are led to assume that Jamie and Victoria probably spent that last night together, which I think is quite touching, actually. How old Zoe Victoria's supposed to be by that point? She's still only like 17 or something, isn't she?
Yeah, but he's only like...
Is he?
Isn't he?
We've probably worked that out before we get cancelled for saying that their relationship is totally fine and lovely and nice. But
at least we're not that bloody bloke on.
Oh, don't! not worth saying.
I don't know his name.
Do not sully this room with mentions of those people. I think that I kind of feel like with Zoe, you've got that older sister thing, which is cool, but then you've now got two sets of people talking down to Jamie. True. So his thickness, which isn't actually thickness, it's just like legitimate. It's not even ignorance. He just doesn't know. Because he's not from this time. So
it'd be like if we went to the land of the space pirates. Yeah, we'd be like,
exactly. What the hell's going on? Yeah.
Why is that woman wearing a testicle for a hat?
Well, I thought we were going to have a cool like bait and switch with a female villain in this story.
So did I. I was really disappointed.
And then she turns into jelly at the mention of somebody being murdered, and you got into league with some space pirates. Are you expecting people not to get rubbed? You know what I mean? It's just silly.
I put that in my notes. I was like, oh, this is quite a progressive story. You've got, and it still is really.
There's only two women in it though. Or is there a secretary?
There is a secretary.
Don't worry, girls. There's also a secretary in it as well.
So if you don't happen to be the daughter of a massive mining corporation, you can do the filing for
Indeed.
them.
And make the tea.
Yeah, so it is quite progressive in as much as, you've got a woman in a high-positioned role, something that... what story was it that this came up in another story? Colony in Space, wasn't it? Colony in Space, Michael Bryant wanted another mining story, funnily enough. He wanted the head of the mining corporation to be a woman. And whoever the director general was at the time was like, no, that's too kinky. Because, okay. So that is actually quite...
I think
nice.
There's his kink screaming.
It is, isn't it? Yeah. He likes dominant women.
Exactly.
So he is. Yeah, it's quite nice to see that in this story that you've got a woman in a position of power. Like you said, it is unfortunate that she then just ends up being a snivelling damsel in the end, and isn't like the main baddie. We also have a black actor playing a fairly prominent role in a couple of episodes until he gets unceremoniously shot down. Yeah, I was quite impressed, really. For 60s Doctor Who.
For 60s Doctor Who, yeah. My only other problem with Madeline, really, besides the fact she does become like a screaming, bawling, sobbing archetype, is that her first scene, she's explained her character by a bloke.
Yes.
And then it all centers around another bloke, her dad, who is dead, apparently. And so it's, okay, so your character motivation is man-related.
Yeah.
You want revenge on Milo Clancy, or you wanted revenge on Milo Clancy because he killed your dad, and then your dad isn't dead eventually. It's just, like, she had a lot of positive attributes to her character and where they could have gone with it.
Yes.
But then it does just become, oh, you got daddy issues, and like, you know.
And I think that happens elsewhere with Dervish as well. You get that throughout the whole thing. You think like he's going to do the switch, and he's going to be like, actually, you know what we're doing is wrong, and I'm going to help you.
Right to the end,
he's just like
he's resisting. He's basically resisting. The first scene we see him in. Isn't it pretty much the first scene where he's just like strapping all these rockets to the outside and he's uncomfortable with that?
Yeah.
I thought that was hilarious, by the way, because I love Dudley Simpson's music in this story.
Yeah.
But it's the idea of this very slow-paced placing rockets on the outside of a ship, all while the music's going down, 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 down. It's reminded me of Dr. No.
Yeah.
Whenever James Bond gets up from a chair to walk across the room, the full Monty Norman theme starts playing. It's really odd.
Hey. You know, you're James Bond. That dramatic chair movement
it deserves a blah 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 blah. I like Dudley Simpson's music in this story as well. I mean, it's very Seeds of Death.
It's very Seeds of Death.
It's basically stick a phaser on some drums, and you've got yourself a Dudley Simpson
It's like
score.
a Neo Morricone in space with a bit of Star Trek.
Yeah,
it's
that vocal.
Yeah,
I actually had her credited on here because she was uncredited in the
was
credits.
She?
Mary Thomas provided the vocals for Dudley Simpson's score,
and I'm assuming it's the same lady who did the Seeds of Death as well. No, is it Seeds? No, does it Seeds of Death? Ice Warriors.
Ice Warriors has that kind of that sound to it. Seeds of Death. No, that's. Dun, 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 dun. It's not got any female.
There's no female vocals in that one. Oh, so just the Ice Warriors then. Okay.
I thought, you like my rendition of the Seeds of Death score. There's quite a lot of interesting firsts I'd like to run through on this.
Right.
But perhaps before we do that, we should throw to a break.
Yeah.
And we'll see you in a bit.
Hello! We'd like to do a shout out to all of our lovely patrons who have supported the Review of Death so far, including Macro99, Daniel Davies, Robert Johnston, Rowan Thorne, Joe Dre McCarran, David Cunningham, Joe Bardsley, Luke Smith, Andrew Mark Thompson, Jack D. Evans, Ryan Kemp, Liam Duke, Josh Lambert, Joe Kay, Exile to the Timelash, Ronan Heathcote, and Jude Lavis.
Thank you to Maxon Russell, James Woods, Tom Lindsay, William Carlisle, Callum Devine, Hugh Burke, Sonny Mullings, Thomas Langford, Jeff McCrory, Chris Clark, Will Price, Thomas Gentile, Matthew Bevan, I don't know why Thomas's name made me laugh, Conrad Harbert, Starter Pack, Donovan the Dusky, Gregor Shepherd, Jack Addison, and Taylor Wooderson. We can only apologise for butchering all of your names. But thank you for supporting the Review of Death on Patreon, and if you would like to get a shout out in the next episode, you can become a patron too and get lots of other cool things.
Yeah, we did an AMA.
We did an AMA on the
really
Discord. It was really good fun, and we'll do more of them and sort of involve some more voice chats and bits and bobs. So.
And thanks to joining our Patreon, we now have to watch Doctor Who softcore porn.
Exactly. So if you want to,
and I've heard something about it already, and I thought, this is going to be weird. Me and you watching that together. Okay,
all right. I'm sure we'll be fine. So if you want to make us watch more rubbish, then become a patron and subject us to this torture.
So in episode 5, cliffhanger to episode 5, Patrick Troughton gets incinerated by a rocket.
I like that cliffhanger.
It is a good cliffhanger. Yeah. Or he's like intoxicated by the fumes of Liz, the ship.
Burnt to a crisp.
And I was thinking when watching it in episode 6, at the start of that, Pat is really out of it, and the companions are bustling around him and like, is he all right? Blah, 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 blah. I thought, would it have been quite incredible if they'd have made him regenerate then?
Now, I wanted to have a look, but I didn't. just to see when it was announced he would be departing or John is taking over.
Yeah.
And I wondered maybe if, I mean, it probably wasn't a direct decision to kind of do a fake out.
Yeah.
But that it was kind of very well timed.
It was, wasn't it? Yeah.
Because, you know, the previous Doctor left the story before the end of the run.
Yeah.
The end of that series. So maybe, you know, that set a precedent and they were going to do that here and you'd get to meet the new Doctor before the end of the series.
Yeah.
Obviously not, but...
It would have been an interesting... It would have certainly added a bit of pep to an otherwise very boring story.
And so you've got all of the war games where the Doctor's basically crispy and being patched up and everyone's touching going, keep away from me. I like that. It was kind of the only cliffhanger of note.
Yeah, that was weird as well when they fall down the mine shaft, and then Pat's like, "Oh, I've landed on my drawing
pins. Why have you got drawing pins in your pocket?"
And he's like, "I like drawing pins."
Yeah,
like,
that was very weird. I'm so happy you mentioned that line. I've forgotten about that line. What? I like drawing pins.
I was like, okay, you weirdo.
It does tie into something else I liked about it, though, which was, I feel this is one of the earliest examples of Doctor Who in his deep pockets.
Yeah.
Because we've got tuning fork, bag of marbles,
yeah,
bag of drawing pins for some reason,
yeah,
and a stethoscope, and a screwdriver, which he all just digs into his pockets and finds them and brings them out. That's lovely. I like the image of the Doctor rummaging in coat pockets.
And this is, it's Robert Holmes, he gets it, doesn't he? He gets all of that stuff. So, I think that's the thing with this story is that the Doctor and the companions are actually served fairly well. I mean, obviously they don't have masses to do, but in terms of their characterization, they're done pretty well, with the exception, Jamie's fine. He just doesn't have anything to do. That's
just
the
asks
trouble.
Lots of questions.
Yeah.
That's kind of his thing, isn't it?
It's just everything else that's the problem.
Zoe isn't screaming.
Zoe's
which is
not
nice.
Screaming. No.
The only time is when they jump down that hatch, which I thought was really funny.
Yeah.
I'm surprised this one isn't brought up more in those kind of cheeky cliffhangers where there's no way they could have got out of that.
Yeah.
But then the next week, there's something for them to land on or whatever.
Yeah.
Or the Fendal is actually further away from them than it was suggested or whatever. In the cliffhanger for episode 4, I think it is it? When they jump down, they go, and it goes really, and then when you see the version in the next episode, it's sorry, it's like the shortest drop in the world.
It's ridiculous.
It was great.
Another thing that I really liked about, this, where I thought the story started to get interesting is when Dom comes into it.
Right. Okay.
Because, up until that point, it's all very obvious sci-fi space.
Yeah.
And then suddenly you're in like at least the way the reconstruction presents it, as like almost like a Victorian study.
I mean, that's how it's described on the narration. Like Fraser said, wood panelled. There's paintings of old ships on the wall or something like that.
And you sort of think, this has suddenly taken a very strange turn. And I think it just adds an extra little element. I mean, Dom doesn't really do anything other than bumble around for...
whimper.
Yeah, and then he's just sort of there.
Yeah.
Like some old dog that, should have probably been put down, but, he's just sort of being dragged around from pillar to post.
He comes into the story at a point where I've got enough characters to be getting on with.
Yeah.
But having said that, the argument between Cavan and Madeline, when she first finds out, is actually really good. Because, I think that one of the big problems we've had with the episodes we've watched so far is that the central villain is sort of non-existent. Like, Mestor is kind of like the big bad in Twin Dilemma, but he's crap. So it's sort of like, we haven't got like a visible like top dog final boss apart from Cavan.
Yeah.
And then he just ends up getting blown up, and then there's yay! Let's go home, everybody. See you next week for War Games.
All that. It feels like we just need another extra threat for this episode. So it was like episode 5. The ship has got a bloody remote control thing on it.
Yeah.
They're gonna die. Episode 6, we've got a bomb that's going to blow up the planet. Oh no. And it just sort of feels like, okay.
But I feel like his stakes, Cavan, he does, I think it's only really in the later parts, obviously, he does start to lose his composure a bit more, which I thought was something I actually tracked.
Yes.
And then when he's in the ship, I think is he blown up in the... No, he's not blown up in the Liz at the end. He's blown up in the Beta Dart or whatever it's called, his ship. at the end, he becomes really frantic.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't care if this blows up and we take everything else with it. He actually becomes suicidal at that point.
Yeah, that's it.
Because he is so like, I cannot get caught.
Yeah.
Because whatever they do to me is going to be worse than just getting blown up in the ship. So I cannot get caught. And then I was like, that is the thing that this is missing, is that Milo is the only thing that kind of, like I said, adds a splash of colour. You've got a story called The Space Pirates. Yeah. Why have they not got robotic peg legs and they're all going, and all that kind of stuff? Like, it needed that just to kind of elevate it a little bit. And, you know, even if you want to go full silly bollocks and whatever, like, Milo is fine as a character by himself, dressed like that. But what if you had like a whole gang of rogue space pirates who all looked like, you know, they all had like fake robot parrots and stuff. Yeah, that would have been. It wouldn't have been so po-faced. I think that's the problem I find with the pirates in this story, is that they don't act or talk really that much different, like I said,
to
before,
anyone else,
to the goodies.
No.
So I had to make sure I was tracking people's like Cavern. Referencing each other's surnames at the end of these things or whatever, and then I got it. Yeah,
I completely agree. They make such an effort to, like I said, for Milo Clancy to be very obvious in who he is in the story. You know, this is obviously the prospector you would see in a Western.
He is more prominent in the story than the Second Doctor.
Yeah.
He's basically he's the main character.
Yeah.
Effectively.
Yeah.
Through the story. Would you like to hear what Patrick Troughton thought of this story?
Yes. Oh, boy, would I?
This is a quote from Michael Troughton.
Okay.
Because I think it would be interesting now to talk about Pat, actually, and the Second Doctor in general in this story.
We should have had Chris Thompson read this.
That's
Pat.
Maybe we'll draft him in for another Pat story. I remember my father arriving at our house after completing a producer's run-through for episode 2 of The Space Pirates. He was angry. But anger born out of frustration rather than aggression. I recall him complaining to my mother about how dull and unwatchable The Space Pirates was going to be. This is episode 2 and we're still trapped in that bloody awful spaceship set. He knew, obviously, that it wasn't going to be great, but how interesting that, you know, dull and unwatchable are the two things that people always mention when they bring up The Space Pirates. So I'd say don't watch it.
No.
Do what I did. Listen to the audio version, because it is actually a lot more palatable.
I think this is it. Like, with all of the stories we've watched so far on this podcast, I've said to you, I've gone into it with fresh eyes, and you know, I want to see it as people saw it back in the day, and you know,
as the majority of the people who commented saying, it's a really underrated story, and you know, that kind of stuff. That really shocked me, actually.
That really shocked me. I couldn't believe it. I mean, you must be mad, but I thought watching this, it felt like a bloody slog.
Yeah.
Getting through it. It was like climbing Everest.
Why do you think that is compared to other stories from around that time? Would you find The Space Pirates more of a slog to sit through than the 10 episodes of the War Games?
Oh my God, yes.
Really?
Because the War Games is fantastic.
I have to like block out half of my year to watch the War Games.
Really? Are you not a fan?
I do like it, but it's 10 episodes long.
It is, but I mean, I feel like with the War Games, I feel like I can sit down and I could literally watch 2 or 3 episodes back to back and I suppose really enjoy it. But with this, I was like, my God, if I watched episode 1 and then I watched episode 2 and I thought, will I be brave and watch episode 3? I thought, no, I can't. I can't do this. And then as I went on, I was like, I'll try and do 3 and 4. No, I can only just manage 3. If I watch any more, really? I will literally gouge my eyes out. And like I said, by episode 6, I was just, you know, it was on and I was like flicking on my phone. And I was like, I really should be paying more attention to this.
I had a couple of moments where I zoned out. Yeah. And it wasn't just because I was walking or making notes on my phone. I was like really trying to listen and kind of absorb the story.
Yeah.
But there were moments where I was like, I have to wait until Commander Eric speaks, and I'm like, we're on the good ship now. And then, you know, then the baddies, you know, we're pirates, and we got this weird kind of mid-Atlantic thing going on.
Oh, and I'm Milo Clancy, and I'm gonna boil an egg.
He sounds like a mix between Talkie Toaster and David Ross as Crichton.
Yes.
You've got the same kind of, you're chirpy breakfast companion.
Now, one of my notes, now people on Twitter and social media, you feel free to chime in on this one. This was my first note from watching episode 2. Is Milo Clancy's hair a wig? Is that moustache real?
I have a feeling the facial hair isn't real.
Yeah.
but I think the hair is.
You think that's his? Do you?
I think it might be.
Really? Wow.
Just from from episode 2. Like, thankfully he's in it a fair bit, so you do get to have a good look at it. I don't know. I feel like my radar's pretty good for syrups, but I feel like I think that might be his legit hair. Maybe I'll look at a photo of it and go, "Oh, I could not have been more wrong. It's obviously a wig." But I think his facial hair was something to admire. Yeah. It was really quite. It impressive.
Says a lot for this story that is the big takeaway we've had so far. It's like, oh,
is it a wig? Is there a wig in this story or not?
And another one.
Oh, go on.
The helmet that Ian wears, the American pilot, that looks suspiciously like the Ice Lord's helmet.
Yeah, it's the same.
It's the same shape. It's got a visor. It's got a strip down the middle. Did they just repurpose that?
Well, Sylvia James is on the makeup for this. Oh, I know she wouldn't have been responsible for fabricating the fiberglass.
No, but.
Suit.
But do you reckon they just got that helmet and went, if we just go like this and tweak it a little bit?
It's the same season, isn't it?
It's the same season. Well, yeah. So maybe... so of course, this is the penultimate story. So Seeds of Death was the story before?
I think... I'm
perhaps.
Not
and maybe
sure.
they just stripped it, and I don't know. Now I'm beginning to doubt myself.
But, I mean,
it's very similar,
the same sort of shape,
It's the same
isn't
shape.
It?
Yeah.
It's better than having whatever Madeline has on her head, which is just...
a testicle hat.
Testicle hat, exactly. Absolutely
it's
bizarre.
So bizarre.
I think it's also quite funny that the audio that was recorded for this, for the loose cannon and the available audio that we have, was actually recorded by a fan in Australia in the 70s. It wasn't taken from like the night of recording in the UK. And apparently, I think I saw it on TARDIS Wiki. They said a lot of people had given up on Doctor Who at that point, and so had stopped recording the outputs, but thankfully the Australian fans did it.
So devoid of content that
they were so desperate for anything to look at other than massive spiders and stuff. They decided to tape the Space Pirates.
My God.
Episode 1 was the final episode filmed of Lime Grove.
Oh.
Everything else is TVC pretty much from that point on, which I thought was interesting. And also, this is the first story John Nathan Turner was hired to work on for Doctor Who.
Oh my God.
He's an uncredited floor assistant. It does. Well, there we go. If we were to ever try and point, maybe this is the time when Doctor Who fell apart.
Well, I was going to say to you, I definitely think that this is the worst Doctor Who story.
Do you think this is worse than the Twin Dilemma?
Oh, without a shadow of a doubt.
Really?
Yes. Because at least Twin Dilemma actually has the Doctor in it doing stuff, and it's got... stuff's happening. This thing is just plodding about for 6 episodes.
There's nothing to enjoy in Twin Dilemma apart from Colin, though. And Nicola, I suppose.
Yeah, but, it's... I would sooner...
There is nothing as interesting.
At least there's only 4 episodes.
I know that the episode length is the thing, but there's nothing as interesting or as colourful in the Twin Dilemma, apart from the outfits, than Milo Clancy is in this.
No,
he's like legitimately like a hook for the story where you're like, I actually don't mind listening to him. Like, I can imagine he would get really grating to some people.
Yeah.
Because the accent is really irritating.
Yeah.
But I actually didn't mind him at all in the story. And at least there's something like that in this compared to Dilemma.
I think I take umbrage with the story because the Doctor just... It's a Doctor-like story.
Yeah, it is.
And we had this conversation in our AMA.
I wondered if it would be too hyperbolic for me to say that, so I'm glad you mentioned it feels Doctor-like. Well,
it is a Doctor-like story.
It's light on Doctor Who.
It's light on Doctor Who, and I think that is the issue that I have. Twin Dilemma, as bad as it is very clearly a Doctor Who story.
But would you rather have the Doctor at their worst in the Twin Dilemma, character-wise, or take Pat pulling in a totally fine performance? I mean, it's not like knocking anyone's socks off. It's not his greatest performance he's ever pulled in, but it's certainly not noticeably like, oh, he's off this week.
Oh, no, that's true. I still think I would definitely just put the Twin Dilemma on rather than having to watch this.
So you've got, at the moment in your rankings, you've got Space Pirates
right at the bottom.
At the bottom. Twin Dilemma.
Then Twin Dilemma.
Underworld,
yeah.
So obviously I said at the start, I think this is the best thing that we've reviewed.
Yeah.
I think that I need to preface that by saying if this was 4 parts, it would be far and away the best thing that we've reviewed.
Okay.
But I think that the 6 parts is a massive problem.
It is
because
so long.
I was able to flash through it quite quickly, but I was still looking at my thing. This is still the end of episode 3. Like, we haven't actually moved on to episode 4 yet. So we are, okay, so we're halfway through the story. Okay, yeah, I can kind of see, like, so where do we go now? Okay, well, at least they're mentioning now we're going to go to Tar.
Yeah.
Like, at least now we're going to land on a planet and we can explore a little bit and get our feet on the ground, and we don't have to constantly be cutting between beacons, which is the thing that I find really difficult to listen to, is that the constant cross-cutting, people talking over video comms, all that sort of stuff. Yeah. Nothing is settled in the story.
No.
And that's difficult to kind of contend with for 6 parts, for 6 episodes. It makes it difficult to listen to or watch.
Yeah, it's just people in rooms talking. And and like you said, most of the time they're not even in the same rooms talking to each other. The space police or whatever you want to call them. Yeah, they're literally just stuck on a spaceship for 6 episodes.
Yeah,
just going, oh, yeah, so they're going over there to this planet. Oh, okay. Oh, no, they're going over to this planet. Oh, have you found that ship? No. Okay. Do you blow the ship up? No.
And they're constantly checking their radars as well. Yeah. It's like, what's that on the radar? Oh, it's this, Captain. Oh, okay. Well, keep looking at it. keep checking.
Nothing happens. With so many of the characters, nothing happens. And I think if you truncated it down to 4 episodes, you could have had episode 1, right, TARDIS crew arrive, the thing blows up, end of episode 2, episode 1, oh no, I've ballsed it up and we're flying off into space. Episode 2, Milo Clancy rescues them, blah, 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 blah. It would work as a 4-parter for sure. Yeah. But then
again as well, you're having the Doctor getting rescued constantly through the story.
Yeah. And then he just, at the end, he's like, oh, I'll just defuse this bomb. Like it's nothing.
The bomb defusal thing I found really interesting because it's a great way to pad out the ending of the story. Yeah. It's like, well, we'll just have a long, tense scene of Pat doing some stuff with a prop. Yeah. To listen to.
My God.
Oh, my God. Like, Fraser is doing, he's like, the Doctor picks up a box and he takes the top off and blah, blah, blah. And then the thing happens and then he puts this and he takes this wire out and then you can say, oh, dear. And then it cuts to another scene. And then... okay, so this bomb defusal still happening in the background. Then it cuts back, and I don't know how far through he is with it because they're not describing. It's not like he's sweating over the yellow wire. Yeah. And Fraser's saying he hovered over the. Yeah. There's no way of knowing really what.
And that's the same watching the recon. It was just like I could be watching anything going on.
So this is my final question for you, Matthew. When the animation comes out, do you think it's going to be favourably received by people?
No, not at all.
Do you really think it's going to go...
I thought about this long and hard. I was thinking, if they animate it, even if all 6 episodes came back, I don't think in any universe this story would do any better. It doesn't matter if you can see the pictures moving. Yeah. It really doesn't. The story is just poo.
Wow. That's so interesting. I'm kind of... I think it's fascinating. We found your... lowest point of the program.
I even said to Johnny, I was like,
I wouldn't have expected it to be a 60s story.
Yeah, I said to Johnny, I was like, I always rag on Paradise Towers. I'd much sooner watch Paradise Towers.
Wow. Yeah, if that isn't a damning indictment of this story, I don't know what is.
I have made my mind up. Because I've watched Paradise Towers recently, and actually, as crap as it is, I kind of enjoyed it.
Good. There we go.
It's camp and silly, and I was just like, I can get on board with this.
Oh, I'm so
But
happy.
what I can't get on board with is bloody boring.
Okay.
Nothing happening.
Well, you know what? Like we said, I was fascinated to see that so many people seem to be really enjoy this story. Yeah. And people saying it's an underrated gem, all this kind of stuff. I didn't expect that reaction at all. And I'd finished the story by that point. I wanted to make sure that I didn't, because obviously I know I know you don't like the story. Yeah. And I didn't want to read too much about the story and what other people thought of it. And so it was really interesting seeing all that feedback come through. So I was like, oh, so I shouldn't feel weird for liking this story, So that was affirming, that was positive. But you're right. It's really not great. No. Now I'm having to wrestle with whether or not in my rankings I put this above Underworld, or if Underworld's slightly... I think I have to put Underworld slightly above it, only because this is 6 parts and that's 4 parts. Yeah. That is a much easier watch.
That's it. It's easy to digest. And even that's boring.
And I know that a lot of Doctor Who fans who maybe got into it after the new series had started, who want to dip into 60s stories, or they've watched all the 60s stories that are visually available to them and maybe enjoyed them, and have always found the barrier for entry to missing stories to be, that one hasn't been animated yet, or I can't sit through telesnaps. My discovery through this is try the BBC audiobooks, because I came out of the Space Pirates actually liking it.
Yeah.
And if that isn't a good review for the BBC audiobooks, I don't know what is. Like, Fraser's narration was really good. Obviously, it's going to be a bit hit and miss in terms of the audio quality.
Of course.
But I think we've found an interesting spot with the Space Pirates. I think this is the first one we've actually kind of disagreed on.
Yeah.
In terms of, it's the worst story of all time for you.
Yeah.
And for me, it's kind of absolutely fine.
Wow. Okay.
Interesting.
That is really interesting.
I suppose that's kind of our reverse Paradise Towers, isn't it?
Yeah. 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 I mean, and for donkey's years, I would have said Paradise Towers is the worst Doctor Who, but it really isn't.
It isn't.
It isn't, not at all. Yeah. Because Doctor Who's not even in it very much.
No, you're right. Right, okay, so I'm just trying to think ahead. Like, okay, in like 6 or 7 weeks' time, you'll get Paradise Towers, because I think that review's been on the cards for a long time.
Yeah.
We'll get Johnny in.
We'll get Johnny in.
We'll get him in full costume, and we'll review Paradise Towers, and then everybody can eat their words, because it's really good, and I love Paradise Towers. Right. Shall we sign off?
I guess we shall.
That's that.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for watching, everybody.
Thank you.
Greatly appreciate you sticking by us as we review the Space Pirates, because it's not an easy thing to watch or listen to, but hopefully we made it slightly more enjoyable through this.
Yeah.
Check us out on our Patreon, which you can find down below. Merchandise is also available as well on our Represent store.
Lovely badges that if you're listening to the podcast, you can't see.
You can't see, but
if you're watching on YouTube.
Yeah, we've got some pin badges. Lovely people who I said hello to at the BFI in London. A few have been handed out.
Yep.
We'll try and figure out a way to get it out to people who want a badge. So if you would like a badge, then let us know.
And I will be going to the BFI in November for the Galaxy 4 screening.
Yes, you will.
So I will take the badges.
You'll take the box.
So if there's anyone who wants a badge, come and say hello.
Come and say hi to Batman March and have a badge off him.
When you said come and say hello to Batman, I was like, what screening are we talking about? Sorry, I forgot what my nom de plume was on the internet.
But look, it's Batman March. It's I have a name. Thank you very much.
Yeah. My nephews call me Bat.
I know.
So
that's really sweet.
That's really sweet. Yeah.
But it's not because you were introduced to your nephews as meet your uncle Batman March. I love that.
If you're at the Galaxy 4 screening, come and say hello. You can call me Batman by all means.
He'll sign some Batman March Toffolo.
Yeah, there we go.
There you go.
And I guess all there's left to say is next time you hear from us, we will be reviewing Evil of the Daleks.
It's Evil of the Daleks.
Yeah.
Evil of the Daleks, which again, like we said before, I've seen the animated reconstruction. Matt hasn't yet.
Yep. I'm really excited. I can't wait to see it.
I'm really looking forward to talking about Evil.
Yeah.
No guesses as to what is going to end up at the top of our list after Evil of the Daleks has been reviewed. So look forward to Evil of the Daleks topping both of our charts.
I think we need this as a nice palate cleanser.
Yeah, I think we need
and especially for
story.
Pat, because Pat is a fantastic doctor, and we've been
you only want to do
watching
Evil to redeem him from this, basically.
And it's not his fault. Crikey, the poor bloody sod came home to his wife and said, "This is shit."
Imagine is it the grumbles you get coming home from work where you're like, "Oh, this just didn't work today," or "Oh, it's really difficult." But coming back and saying, "This Space Pirates script is bloody rubbish," and this spaceship's rubbish. It's like, what kind of a household is that?
Yeah, and for him, he must have been like, "Oh, the Crotons, Robert Holmes, this Robert Holmes fellow, he's not going to get anywhere.
He's bloody rubbish. He's written me 2 stinkers. Get rid of him."
I'm surprised he got any more work.
Based off of those two.
Those two, yeah.
But then again, actually, I did write down, maybe we can end with this, because there were a couple of nice lines that I found in there. Because he does try his best. He's clearly, working to the absolute limits of what he was capable of writing at the time, maybe. Or maybe not, because I guess they would have seen something in him to invite him back.
Yeah.
Madeline talking to the general, "You don't take any chances." And he replies, "That is why I am a general, madam." I quite like that line. And also Milo, Zoe to Milo. There's just one thing I don't understand, Milo. There's about 100,000 things I don't understand. But then he goes on to tell her to do something useful and make a pot of tea. So,
ooh, yeah.
Fuck Milo Clancy. See you next time.
Bye-bye.